Hello, we are in gate 14, a new gate, and the first line. And this first line says, money isn't everything. The essence, the truth of this 14th gate is that money isn't everything, which is a truly wonderful first line for a gate that is all about money. Well, that is, it's all about power, and power is energy, and energy in our language tends to be money. For the 14th gate, power is something that comes naturally. It's not something that we have to seek out. And direction and the capacity to empower direction is not for the concrete reward. That's not enough. Money isn't everything. When we are seeking to understand the nature of this gate, we have to see this is an individual power source that is focused on bringing about order through empowering the right direction. So we have a lifetime learning. All of the lines in gate 14 have this lifetime learning or an introduction line. So this is telling us that we don't come into the world with the knowledge of how to really work or embrace this gate 14. We have to learn it over the course of our lives. So the lifetime learning here for the first line, the recognition that wealth has its own problems. There's an assumption of wealth here. And the assumption of wealth is the assumption of power. The motors that we have in the body graph, with the root, the solar plexus, the ego, and the sacral, they are energy producers. You know, if you have a defined motor, it's a bit like having your own oil well or your own windy turbine, turbine even, windy thing. The vast majority of humanity takes this energy and spills it on the ground. You know, they rarely get the opportunity to use it in the way it's meant to be used because they're not being themselves. When these centers are not operating properly, when the energy isn't operating correctly, someone else is taking advantage of the resources. And this is important to understand. It's like somebody else is siphoning off our oil or siphoning off our wind, even. Yeah, I don't want anyone siphoning off my wind. I don't think they want to. Moving on, gate 14 is the gate that recognizes this is a potential. Gate 14, gate 40, sorry, in the ego, it sees this as well. And it's really careful with its energy. Gate 40 can actually be quite stingy because it will make the bargain. It will say, yes, I will do this. I will provide my willpower, but in return, I want to rest. I want you to leave me alone. So the 14th gate tells us that the accumulation and the retention of power, which means our direction, has to be very clear. And we have to use our energy properly. In the exaltation, it says the lust for lucre, tempered by higher principles. The key to manifesting power is higher principles. And as we go through these lines of gate 14, just check out how often the word key is used. It's in the channel that's called the keeper of the keys. You know, it's the fuel for the driver. It gives, you know, when they turn the key, they've then got the fuel to drive the car. So there is a link that brings this through. So just keep an eye on how many times the word key is mentioned. So yeah, the key to manifesting power is higher principles. Well, what is a higher principle? Because it sounds really nice, doesn't it? It sounds quite exalted and something that we should be aspiring to. Ra said that a higher principle is to sell something that you would buy. And that's it. It's not any more complex than that. It's not about being a hypocrite or a user. It's simply about being clear that you are involved on the material plane with something. There's something you'd like as a product or a service, and you're prepared to pay for it. Yeah, that's fine. That's your higher principle. You stand behind a product you're selling. That's also a higher principle. You know, and then it's all right to get caught up in the lust for lucre. Why not? You know, I'd be quite happy if someone gave me a bag of £50 notes. I'd have no problem with that at all. Let me know if you've got one hanging around. I'll send you my address. So all this is saying is that if the principle is correct, if you're dealing with something that you truly respect and consider to be of value, then you can be successful. And this is the power to empower the whole material process, the whole mutation. These are people who make money out of being different, out of attracting attention, because this isn't the tribe. This isn't the collective. These are individuals. There is the drive of the individual to attract attention so that their mutation can be available. If it's a valid mutation, they're going to be successful. The detriment says the delusion that you can throw money at problems. Energy alone can never be the key. This is saying that it's not enough to have the 14 in your design. You've got to have the right driver to give your fuel to. Remember the headline, the accumulation of power and its retention through skilled interaction. That's the real key to grasp. It's the skilled interaction that does it. This is the lifetime learning as well. In order for mutation to take place, it can no longer remain in the realm of the individual, but it has to be transferred either to the tribe or to the collective. And so the individual who suffers from melancholy or moodiness, that individual that only has its peak power in the first encounter, they have to be the master of timing. They have to be the master of interaction in order to get their mutation across. And of course, this is lower trigram. We're dealing with an inner process, the introspection of personal destiny. And we're dealing with lines that do not know there's the possibility of a driver at the other end. They've got this gas pedal and they're there revving their engine all the time, but they're not going anywhere. The two sides of this hexagram are related, of course. Of this line, are related. On the exalted side is the desperation to turn the energy into currency. You want that energy to be converted into a successful direction. The higher principle, I'm not wasting my energy. I'm using my energy for a correct direction in my process in order to bring about order. And in the detriment, there's this sense that you give your energy away to others so that you will get the right direction. This is the 14 who looks at the 2 and says, I have the key, please drive me somewhere. But energy alone can never be the key. You can't just pay someone to take you in the right direction. It doesn't work. You can't just throw your energy at them. It has to be correct. The sacral center isn't an awareness center. The 14th gate has all the power within it to get to that driver, but it doesn't know where to drive. On its own, it can't know where to drive. So there is a tendency in people with the 14th gate to make attempts at doing things that are not for them, or they'll ask other people to take them in that direction. There can be a helplessness in the possession in great measure. And it's important to understand that it's an enormously powerful gate, but it is also vulnerable to being misguided. The first line is there to understand the nature of the hexagram. It does have this power for direction, but that doesn't mean it knows what to do with it. It doesn't mean that it knows where it's going in its process. So we are grounded here in gate 8. The first line is called honesty, with the introduction line that says the truthful acceptance of limitation and the recognition that it can only be transcended through sharing. Gate 14 is powering the mutative direction of the individual, and this is the contribution that gate 8 is making. It is sharing the direction, it's getting it out to the collective, to the tribe, to making that mutative leap, and it's empowering others as it does so. Honesty keeps gate 14 on track, keeps it honest, I guess you could say. We know that money isn't everything, and perhaps sometimes we need reminding of that. Mercury moves into gate 26 at 11:22, the gate of the egoist in the heart center, or the ego center. This is the gate of the trickster. It's always looking to do less work for more reward. The reward being rest, always for the ego center. The moon is still in gate 20. It's been here since 7:20 this morning. We're in GMT, remember, as I'm doing this report. It's the gate of the now, the gate of contemplation. This is individuality, and it's in the throat center. The moon is working its way through the throat gates at the moment. And then it moves into gate 16 at 16:29, another throat gate, this time in the logical collective circuit. It's the gate of enthusiasm and skill. It's expressing the mastery of the stream of taste. Mastery through repetition, that's the key here. Repetition finds flaws in the patterns and corrects them, offering them up to the collective through the 16th gate, sharing them as we move forward into the future. And the next moon gate takes us to the other side of the body graph at 0141. We move into gate 35. It's another throat gate, of course, and it's also in the collective, but it's on the opposite side to the 16 in abstract circuitry. I forgot the word there, abstract circuitry. And we have a channel here because Neptune is sitting in gate 36. So 36 is in the solar plexus, and then we have the 35 in the throat. So this is giving us an emotional manifester channel. It's called transitoriness. It's the jack of all trades, master of none, because mastery belongs on the other side of the body graph. The abstract side isn't about mastery. It's about experiences. And this channel wants to have as many experiences as it possibly can. It doesn't want to repeat any of them. It's always moving on. It can be very restless. It can get bored very easily. And it can have quite an impact, of course, being that manifester energy. And so it's good to inform anyone who is going to be affected by the experience or by your decision to have a new experience. It can be hard for those with this channel to wait, waiting out their wave before jumping in, because the manifester can operate from their own internal creative pulse. They're not looking for an external kind of stimulus. So then having to wait, it's like, oh, really? Waiting for clarity. Is this the right experience for you? Because waiting for clarity is what the mechanic demands. And what you're looking for with this is, do you have the energy for it? This is always what all of these internal authorities, our inner authorities is saying. Have we got the energy for whatever this is right now? And then it's feeling into it, not letting the mind drive it. So this is the first line. We are off and running on gate 14. I will be back tomorrow for the second line, and I look forward to seeing you then. Remember, money isn't everything, but somebody said, I'm sure it helps. Go gently.